Okay, welcome everyone to tonight's regular meeting of council here in Sunbury, Ohio for June 1st, 2022. It is about 7:30 p.m. Let's start with the silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's go with the roll call. Ms. Belcher.
St. John is absent. David Campbell.
Here.
And Ghost.
Here.
Marie Neff is absent. John McGrumney.
Here.
David Martin.
Here.
Cindy Cooper. Here. 5 present.
Thank you. How about we go to the minutes from our last meeting of May the 18th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Motion for approval by Mr. Martin.
Second.
Second by Mr. Capel. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Belcher.
David Martin.
Yes.
David Campbell.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper. Yes. John Grumney.
Yes.
Tim Ghost.
Yes.
5 yeas.
Thank you. Let's move on to the visitor section. I see one gentleman here. Mr. Bennett. It appears yes, nothing to add this evening. Okay.
Not yet.
It's too late. We'll move on to committee reports. Let's start down here, Mr. Grumney.
I'll defer to Dana.
Mr. Capel.
All right. We had services committee earlier this evening. Pretty productive one. So we talked, we reviewed our street sweeping proposals and decided, and it's on our agenda for later tonight, to pursue Columbus Power Cleaning offer $17K for the entire service year. That'll include 2 washings. First one of $9,500, second one of $7,500. We talked about the Letts Avenue repairs. Again, we're expecting some more information on that as we get a third quote back between now and next services committee meeting. We also intended, and I believe that was on our agenda again tonight, to renew our refuse collection agreement with local waste services. We are in the middle of a service agreement where we can basically extend for an additional 2 years if we want to. Given inflation and the price of fuel, it's highly unlikely that we're going to see any improvements in cost. So probably extending that agreement is going to be in our best interest.
I think that was a 2% increase, right?
With a 2% increase, yeah.
Okay.
Did we do a 2-year contract last time with them?
In 2021, we approved a 2-year contract with a 2-year extension.
Okay.
So we're coming up, yeah. Then we talked a little bit about the Safe Streets for All grant, which is a federal grant program through the Department of Transportation, trying to get some idea of what we actually could potentially apply for there, what some ideas are. Along the same line, OPWC, we need project ideas to get together over the next couple months so that we can submit for that. In the past, we've tried to get portions of our street project covered by that, not so successfully the last couple of years. And then finished up with discussion on Lowhead Dam has taken some damage in recent months. More to come on that as we look to remediation. That's all I've got.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Earlier this evening, we did have the parks meeting, and 4 or 5 items we discussed. Reservoir Park update. The punch out list there with regard to the trail that we're working on. We do have an item this evening on the agenda for final approval, I believe, third reading for the ODNR grant. And then we talked about the Fallen Heroes Trail update. We do have a meeting scheduled, I think, June 9th with John Marr and CT, trying to drill down the final phase 3 and 4 location of the trail. And we had a nice discussion from Daryl about Source Point and the programming there. He met with Claire Decker and Chauncey at the library. And we've got some ideas how we can partner with them, and Daryl's going to flesh that out further for our next meeting. And then Rosecrans Park tree inspection. I have trying to get together with Aaron Noblet to set up a time to look at some species of trees over there. It's a native species, I think 3, that are causing some problems. So we're going to meet with him, do a walkthrough, and see where we need to go with that. Oh, and Mr. Martin mentioned he had a conversation with, I think it was the American Legion representative, about the bleachers over at J.R. Smith, and we've got to do some work there to appease his concerns for next year. I think that's it. Anything further, Ms. Cooper?
No, not on that.
Okay.
We did have a zoning meeting. Now that our BZA is up and active, the zoning committee doesn't receive as many, not as much stuff comes to us anymore. So it was kind of a lighter agenda. So it was really just, we discussed the final plat of the Price Ponds, and that's on your agenda for tonight.
Very good. Thank you.
I don't have any committee reports.
All right, sir. Let's move on then to the police report section. We do not have the chief here or any other representative. In fact, we just got a text message, I think, from Deputy Chief Wade a few minutes ago. They are busy. So he was going to be here. Actually, Justin, Officer Whiteside, was going to be here to talk about his SRO program there and give an update. I think we'll leave that for our next meeting. And Deputy Chief Wade was going to discuss the 2 new officers that we hired recently, full-time officers, Maya Belcher and Andy Plummer. I think we'll put that on hold for the next meeting as well. And that was it from the police department. I talked to Chief Howard this morning, and he did mention that his father is down at the hospital, so he could not be here this evening. He has some heart issues he's working through, so our thoughts and prayers are with him. All right, let's move on to the administrator's report. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did talk to Steve today. Steve apologizes, couldn't be here today. He's not feeling well. He will update you with a full report at the next meeting, but I did want to note, we do have the second round of interviews for the Director of Finance position later this week. Hope to be able to narrow that to either a preferred candidate or a preferred candidate or 2. At some point, we'll be back in front of council to receive your approval on the recommended candidates. So we still got some work to do, but I think we've got 4 good candidates for a second round of interviews.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Hennessy? All good? Okay. How about Mr. Hall, engineer's report?
Thank you, Mr. Gose. Just a couple highlights from the report. The 2022 street program where contract was awarded to Capstone, which is Columbus Asphalt Paving. We're in the contract execution stage right now, so we're executing the contract, and we are obtaining a schedule to see when they're going to start. Their completion date is August 12th to have that paving wrapped up. A quick update on Rolling Hills Subdivision Section 1, the old golf course property. That's about 80%. They're focused on what we're calling Section 1A, which is the southern portion. So we're going to release that section for building permits soon. They still need to finish the electrical backbone and some other work there. And then Section 1B is on the northern side. That still has a little bit more work to do. So things are progressing along. We've been talking with them pretty intently on the erosion control, getting the site seeded and some other things, some cleanup and some housekeeping on that property. Little Walnut Creek Interceptor Sewer, the contractor is back finishing up the punch list, some restoration, fencing, seeding, other things like that, now that the rains have hopefully stopped and we can get that punch list wrapped up as well. Price Pond Section 1, construction continues pretty aggressively there. As you know, the final plat was approved by Planning Commission, is on first reading this evening. Eagle Creek, 3Bs and a K subdivision, rezoning was approved by council with contingencies. Next step there, we're waiting on the construction drawings. MS Consultant is actually preparing the construction drawings for that project. So those will be coming in and we'll start moving through a review and approval process there. And those were just some of the major construction projects occurring. I thought I would update you. So any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Holm? All right, very good. Thank you, Wes. Let's go on to the resolutions already. Third reading, Resolution 202203. This is a resolution appointing representatives to the Delaware County Tax Incentive Review Council. And Mr. Hennessy, I believe it's you and Mr. Martin, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And this is the third reading, so we need it.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022.03.
Motion by Mr. Capel,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Cooper. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Belcher.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper. Yes. David Martins,
I'll abstain.
John Grumney, Tim Goes.
Yes,
4 yeas, 1 abstention.
resolution 202203 approved. Okay, let's move to the ordinances. Ordinance 2021.40 remains tabled. We'll go to ordinance number 2022.21. This is the third reading. This is the ordinance authorizing the establishment of credit card accounts and authorized users with expenditure limits. We've talked about this in our last meeting. I think we're ready to go here.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 23.21.
2022.
I'm sorry, got hung up in the bifocal.
2022.21.
2022. Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Martin,
Second.
second by Mr. Grumney. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Belcher.
David Martin,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
5 yeas.
Ordinance 2022.21 passes. Okay, let's go to the ordinance number 2022.24. This is also a third reading, and it's an ordinance approving the execution of a grant agreement with Ohio Department of Natural Resources and declaring an emergency. You might recall we talked about this in the last meeting with Steve Piles, and this is for capital improvements, including the fishing pier and the access walkway and the parking lot. And $46,000 from ODNR. Any color you wish to add to that, Mr. Hennessy?
I was gonna say, I do have an update. I talked to Steve a little bit about this one earlier today.
Mhm.
I think working with Mr. Bream, they had revised some language that they submitted that would allow the city to continue to draw water from the reservoirs moving forward, and he proposed a map change. So Steve did report back that he did get confirmation from ODNR that they're fine with the map adjustment, but that it's still pending legal review at ODNR on the language change regarding the use of the reservoir. So Steve was suggesting that perhaps just keep this on the table, give him a little bit more time to work out that language before the final reading.
Okay. Sounds good, Mr. Bream. Acceptable.
Since that was your third reading, let's just do a motion to put it on the table. To the extent they're ready next meeting, you could take it off the table and vote it at that time.
I will motion to table ordinance 2022.24.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Sorry. I don't know if this is the right place to ask it, but a citizen asked me about the accessibility of the reservoir and the steps leading up to it and no handrail. So will that be covered in this grant to make that, say, ADA compliant, do we know? Or because there was concerns about the dangers of accessing the reservoir.
I don't know if it's in this grant amount, but it certainly is contemplated as part of the improvements to the park. Then working with the engineer, I think we were talking about trying to get ADA access up to the top of the pier so that they'll be able to do some fishing. Again, I don't know if that's covered in the grant agreement. I'll confirm and get back with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, the plan calls for sort of a zigzag, horizontal, like running along,
Okay.
you know, the slope,
Right.
not going straight up.
Okay.
In other words, the incline is too steep.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I guess there was an older citizen that was trying to make it up those steps and was having some problems. And I advised that they're discussing improvements to the area. And he wanted to make sure that we included thought, or at least a some type of resolution to the accessing of the reservoir itself for people that are not able to climb. Yeah, so.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Grumney. So I motion to table that. Second. Is there a second? Mr. Capel will second. Ms. Belcher?
Kim Rose,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
5 days.
Thank you. Let's go to the second readings. We have ordinance number 2022.27. Actually, these next four ordinances all deal with the services with Delaware County and approving an agreement for plan review and permitting and inspection of the services between the county and Delaware, the county of Delaware, I'm sorry, and the city of Sunbury. And also submitting an application to the State of Ohio Board of Building Standards for certification as a sub-building department. We talked about this in detail last meeting with Mr. Piles. I think what I'll do is read each one individually. Again, this is a second reading. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Hennessy, I don't think there's a need for an emergency here, correct?
Yeah, Steve suggested just doing the second reading was fine.
Okay, I'll do that now. So ordinance number 2022.27, an ordinance approving an agreement for plan review, permitting and inspection services between the county of Delaware, Ohio and the city of Sunbury, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 2022.28, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to submit an application to the State of Ohio Board of Building Standards for certification as a sub-building department and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2022-29, an ordinance adopting the 2017 Ohio Building Code and subsequent updates for the city of Sunbury and declaring an emergency. And then finally, ordinance number 2022.30, an ordinance adopting the 2006 Building Code of Delaware County and prior revisions from 2011 and 2018 and subsequent updates and declaring an emergency. All right, let's go to the first reading for ordinance number 2022.31. It's an ordinance accepting the final plat of Price Ponds subdivision and declaring an emergency. So a little background, this was approved by planning and zoning, I believe, just last week on May 23rd, had 4 contingencies: the standard engineering and legal review, easements and right-of-way finalization, and some road improvements. Mr. Bremer, Mr. Hennessy, anything you can add to this particular ordinance? Is there, I believe we do have a need for an emergency on this tonight, don't we?
Well, I can't really speak to the emergency as well as probably what Wes can. He's dealing directly with the developer, but I can say that there has been significant work put into the contingencies on the approval as far as some deliverables we still need from the developer, so those are incorporated into the ordinance itself. I don't know if we were contemplating having a second reading on this, or excuse me, would this be a third reading now? This is the first.
This is the first.
Whether we're contemplating a second reading, but there is emergency language in it. I do think we were contemplating, knocking off the 30-day approval so they can, I know they're anxious to get a model home built. There is the need. A lot of people are looking forward to being able to access that community as the homes are constructed.
The infrastructure work significantly underway, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is. So this was scheduled for 3 readings and then to declare an emergency on the 3rd reading to avoid the 30-day referendum period. So we still have a few issues to work through on the agreement. So, you know, if something were to escalate and we need an emergency on the 2nd reading, then that could happen as well, I would assume. So
The first reading only tonight. If you have questions between now and the next meeting, let us know.
Okay, very good. Thank you. First reading completed. Let's go now to, my goodness, that's all the ordinances. You need to slow down.
It's hot.
New and unfinished business. We have purchase order number 35701. That's the Duke's root control for $10,318. Go ahead, Mr. Hennessy or Ms. Belcher.
This is a normal expense that we have every day through the sewer plant. He expands so much each year, and then he refoams some of it. It's a preventative. It's and it's always budgeted. We're always prepared for it. But the only reason we're bringing it forward is because it's over 10,000 and it's above everyone's spending limit.
That's fair and reasonable and consistent with past years, right?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Martin for approval.
I'll second.
Second by
Although I
Ms.
originally read it as root canal.
Yeah, I
It's
can
not
see that.
it's root control.
Duke's
Much more appropriate.
Duke's root canal.
$1,000.
Inflation, huh? I second.
All right, second by Mrs. Cooper. Any discussion? Ms. Belcher.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Tim Ghost,
Yes,
Damon Capel,
Yes.
5 yeas.
very good. Thank you. Okay, street sweeping. Mr. Capel mentioned or talked about this earlier in the the streets committee report. And this was for the total of $17,000. Mr. Hennessy sought 2 bids, and this was by far the least expensive. I think it was $9,500 for the first sweep and a second maintenance sweep for $7,500.
Right.
And this is something we have not done. We were talking earlier in the meeting. At least 6, 7, maybe 10 years, right?
We got at least 10 years and somewhere back to when Mr. Martin was the village administrator. So somewhere between there, we did some street sweeping, but we haven't done any recently.
And this also helps with the MS4 program, stormwater program, right, Mr. Hall?
Correct, it does.
Okay. We had unanimous approval for it in our streets committee meeting, so I'll make a motion to accept that bid of $17,000.
Second.
Second by Mr. Capel. Any further discussion?
Tim Ghost,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
5 yeas.
All right, very good. Local waste management service extension option. Again, we talked about this in the services committee meeting as well. And let's see, where are we here? This is with the vendor, yes, Local Waste. We signed was it a 3-year? Let's see, back in February of 2021 was the original for this particular contract. And we want to increase it by 2%.
But we want to extend the term.
Yeah.
So the
For another
contract
year.
allows for the extension, allows for an extension of up to 2 years. And then the contract as currently drafted says it allows them to increase the charge a maximum of 2% for each of those years. So the second year is probably a little bit, ends up being kind of cumulative, more than 2% of where it is today. But anyway, yeah, so the question here is, is council prepared to do an extension? The services committee felt comfortable in the 2-year extension. And I think maybe they might have had a question or two for you, Mr. Bream. Just could the contractor choose not to accept the extension?
So when when we bid out our contract, it was in 2020. It was a 3-year initial term that runs through the end of March next year. But with everything that's going on, inflation, gas prices, everything else, and if you talk to other local governments, people wonder how we have the rates we have, frankly, and at the size that we are. So we do have a very competitive rate for our trash pickup. They pick up everything. We have optional recycling. We really, I think, have everything a resident. I hate to say it that way. We have a lot of things I think residents are comfortable with and they appreciate. We have to give them notice 90 days prior to the end of the term if we want to renew. With everything going on, you get into the fall, you get into budgeting and appropriations, and we've got new people coming in and all those type of things. We just decided to get out in front of it administratively, bring it all to you, and see if you wanted to go ahead and pull the trigger on exercising that option. You have 2 1-year options, so you could exercise the option to extend it 1 year. Or you could exercise the option to extend it both years. What staff and, I think legal would agree with is go ahead and exercise it for both years. 2 years will be here before you know it. We'll be bidding it out again, frankly. But based on everything that's going on, we did not want to miss that opportunity. There was some internal discussion about level of service, satisfaction with service, really, but for a few very minor number of complaints which are called in, and the attempt to rectify those, we have pretty satisfied tax base.
Yeah, we talked about that. It was like
with our trash pickup. So
less than a handful of complaints and weekly residences, visitations or pickups are 2,000 to 3,000, right?
Yep. And they really do pick up everything.
Yeah.
So it's,
This includes, it says here, the municipal building, street department, dumpsters, wastewater treatment plant, dumpsters, and the festivals, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Fallen Heroes Memorial Annual Celebration, Labor Day, Sizzle, and 1 additional miscellaneous village event to be determined. And it looks like, if I'm reading this right, it's $16.50 per month is the rate for the record, correct?
So they currently are.
It's number 7.
Yeah.
yes. Residential rate to be charged by the contract will be $16.50 per month from April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021. $16.50 per month from April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. And $16.50 per month. It stays that way through 2020 through to 2023. So the resident's going to see potentially a 2% increase over that number.
Yep. Each of the years.
For the first year. I'm sure they'll exercise the full amount with the way their costs have gone up. And then they potentially would have another 2% increase the following year. But inflation wise, that probably doesn't cover it for them, frankly.
Yeah, really, 10% would be just $1.65, right? So it would be 1/5 of that. Wow.
Yeah, and just to add to the benefit, if
Not much.
you go down, actually the top of the next page, there actually is a discount for seniors that's already built in.
$2, yeah, $14.85 for seniors. Okay, 65 and older.
So to the extent you were to say motion and vote to do it, we would send them a written notice of our exercise of our option to renew it for the 1 or the 2 years. And get a written response from them so we're secure in that service through spring 2025.
It's 33 cents a month would be the 2%.
33 cents a month.
Yeah.
Maximum increase.
Right. Yeah.
most people won't
We
even
only
notice
all of
that.
our household expenses on them at that much.
Yeah, utility wise, yeah, no question. Services, very good. Thank you, Mr. Brigham and Mr. Hennessy. I will make a motion to exercise the final 2 years.
Second.
On that. Second by Mr. Capel. Any further discussion? Okay, go ahead, Ms.
Cindy
Belcher.
Ghost,
Yes.
David Capel,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
Art Yates.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, what else do we have here? That can't be it, can it? Okay. Any finished or unfinished business? Mr. Grumman.
I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Kaplan,
No business here.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Yes, right ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to City North. They came
Stole my
out
thunder. That's the
to,
only one I had.
they came out on Sunday, the 29th, and they painted around the railings down below at the town hall. And they also painted over at the municipal building. So they had, I don't know if they had about 50, they were expecting about 50. So we'll have to get that information,
They
but
did the gazebo too, I thought.
Well, I don't think they
I
got
don't,
to.
they ran out of time.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
yes,
it looks great over there. It's a great upgrade.
Yeah, big thank you to City North. I
Absolutely.
also wanted to just let council know and request it to go on our Facebook that Westerville Area Resource Ministries, WARM, you may have heard of them before.
Mhm.
They have a program where they give free lunch to kids ages 1 to 18. It's up to age 21 if you're on an IEP. And they have spots all over Westerville, Columbus area, but they come to Sunbury. They're on the square at weekdays, every weekday from 12:30 to 1:15. So if you know anyone with kids between the ages of 1 and 18 or 21 on an IEP, come to the square for a free lunch.
Mhm. And that, I have to say, I can vouch for how effective that is. They do a great job. My wife and I were involved in that a couple years ago in the Westerville school system, and it's top notch. Very well organized. Food is good.
And then the last thing was I just wanted to say officially again, or for another time, congratulations to our mayor who last week was awarded the Business First 40 Under 40 officially. He got his plaque and everything, and I promised his mom Becky I would say hi and give her a shout out in council. She watches our meetings, so hi Becky. That's it for
I'll
today.
second that. It was a very well-deserved award, and the evening went very well. It was very good. Anything, Mr.
I
Martin?
don't have anything.
All right, sir. I have nothing further.
I'll
Anything?
make a motion to, go ahead and ask them.
Anything from our professionals over there?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Martin,
Second.
second by Mr. Capel. Go ahead, Ms. Cap.
David Martin,
Yes.
David Capel,
Yes.
Jim Goes,
Yes,
John Gurmey,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
meeting adjourned. Thank you.
We've had one or two that were